Hey, today we're going to talk about how to manage client work so that you can still get your own work done and not derail all of your work. All right, let's get started. So, I know that client work can be a real distraction and you need the client work, but then how do you manage your own marketing? How do you manage your own work? I've been in your shoes. I used to build websites and I used to build websites for small businesses, and I had the same problems. And some of those problems were one is the client expectations. I had problems managing that client expectation. I had real problems trying to get the information I needed from my client in order to do my job. And the other one is that I had a difficult time estimating and figuring out exactly how long things were going to take until I got better at it. So I wanted to share some strategies with you so that you can get better at doing these things and maybe take a more project management approach or even a scrum approach, which is really nice to manage your client work so that you can do all those things, manage the expectations, ensure that you're getting what you need from your client so you can do your job, and then keeping them updated and communicating with them effectively so that they're excited about the work coming and they're not pressuring you to get things done sooner than you can. So you're not having to burn the midnight oil just trying to get their work done and your work done. Okay. So the first thing is we want to set client expectations, right? So the first thing is to let them know when you're going to be able to start the project. So just because you had a consultation with them and they said yes, does not mean you're going to be able to start on their project right away. And what you want to do is actually let them know that you think it's going to take about X amount of time. And I would pad that time with about 25%. So it's important for you to start doing estimates. So when you sit down to work on specific tasks for your other clients, and they might be similar to a new client coming on board, make sure you're tracking how much time that takes so that you can add that up and you know approximately how long things are going to take. And if you've been doing this for a while, you probably can estimate pretty good how long things are going to take. But instead of thinking in terms of calendar days, like, oh, I can have it back to them in 5 days. Think about things in terms of hours, the number of hours of labor that it's going to take you to do those things. And then you have to pad in time for expectations. If there's something you need to get clarification on and you're waiting for a response from your client, or you outsource some things and you're waiting for that person, you'll need to be able to build all that in. So until you have laid out a good statement of work, and the expectations on the client so they understand what they have to provide to you, it's going to be a little bit hard to make estimates on the total job unless you've done it a zillion times. But if you're new to the game, then start taking notes on how long things are going to take. You can download little clock in apps. I think mine, the one that I have is called Work Hours or something like that. And it's kind of cool because you can actually clock in and clock out, so making it really easy. It's like perfect for lawyers and things like that, anybody who does service type work. And that way, you're not necessarily charging by the hour, of course, and you're not necessarily telling your client how many hours that's going to take because you don't want to be in that situation where you're trading dollars for hours. But you want to be able to set a timeline, right? As a good project manager, you want to set a timeline on when you expect that thing to be done. Now, that's why we want to look at number of hours, because what you want to do is do your time blocks like a good scrummer. You can grab my take charge of your time freebie, and that might help you do that. So you can do your time blocks so that you know exactly when you have slots of time where you do client work. You have slots of time when you do your work. And that way you always have that boundary. You never ever mesh into that time when you're supposed to be doing your work. You just simply schedule things out. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be booked out to June, July, August, something like that, right? And you can do that if you have good boundaries on your own time, because you still have to spend that time building your business, even though you're working on client work, right? Because you don't want to dry up. You need to have clients coming in. So let's say today you have a consultation with a client, a potential client, they say yes. Then you simply go through what is expected of them and what you're going to need from them. And then you can start giving them a basic timeline. Well, if you have the stuff to me by X date, then I can get started on this date. And now think about this, because if you give them 2 weeks to get the work together, or a week to get whatever it is that they need to get to you, and they're late, then you have to basically reschedule that, right? Because you were planning on working on it at that time, and so just because they're late doesn't mean you have to drop everything on your side just because they finally got that stuff to you and you want to get that going. Okay. So make sure you set up the client expectations, and then tell them how long you expect it to take based on your assumptions, the assumptions that they'll get what they need to you on time, and, the number of hours you expect things to take, and make sure you build in a cushion time. I always like to build in about 25% cushion time, because one, you have administrative things that you have to do, and you just may have certain challenges that come up, obstacles that come up, right? That you need to deal with that might cause unexpected delays. So do that. And then the next thing in that client expectations is you can actually set up little milestones in that client work so that each of your clients knows what those milestones are, and then what is going to happen at each one of those milestone points. So I'll get to that in just a second. So then you want to ensure that you get everything that you need from your client. So my suggestion is to create a statement of work. And you may already be doing this, but I've worked with people who don't do that, and it can be very frustrating because you really don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what that person's doing for you and what's included and what's an extra and all that. And it's easy to do that when you're just getting started, because you're not 100% sure what you want to include, maybe. But the problem is that it creates a trust problem, right? Because people are afraid they're going to pay X amount of dollars and then not get what they actually expected. And then you're both going to be unhappy, right? Because then you're going to have to go back and redo work, or figure out, maybe you're going to have to throw it in because the client thought it was included when it wasn't. So make sure you're upfront, you create a statement of work, and you create exactly what's going to be included in that. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bend things and, you go that extra mile for your client and do those sorts of things, especially early on. But having that expectation up front will actually help prevent problems and miscommunications later on down the road. But it also will help because you can put in writing what exactly is expected of them. Like if they need to get their brand kit to you, or certain documents or assets because you're doing analysis on them, or whatever it is that they need from you, you want to have that clearly in writing. And the nice thing about that is you create sort of an input output type of accountability, right? You need, as input for your work, you need their output. And so it creates that supply and demand, which builds in accountability without there being having to be the boss of somebody else, right? And you can simply say, I won't be starting on your project until I have all these things in order, because I need to review them all as a whole in order to start the project. Now, that doesn't mean you can't start framing out the work, getting things going, but I would not officially start that project until you have all the things that you need from your client. And it really depends. It depends on, obviously you're not going to be hard lined on that, because that could cause problems. But if you start seeing that you're having a problem with people getting the work that you need from them in a timely manner, then you probably want to do that, because you can see how it can really mess up your schedule, right? If you decided, okay, I'm going to slate out the time to work on this client's project, and then they don't have all the work that you needed in, they don't have everything submitted to you, then you can't get started, or you can't finish, whatever. And then now you've had to extend that client work into next week, and you already had somebody else's work scheduled for next week. So you can see how it can kind of create a scheduling problem. And you want to make sure that you're being fair to yourselves and to your clients. And then just being upfront with that communication so they know exactly what to expect, right? And that statement of work, you can have just an outline of what's going on. In project management world, we often call that a requirements document, but in the freelancing world, you probably call that a statement of work. So make sure that you're creating that statement of work, then it has clear expectations set. And then I would not officially start my project until they've given me everything that I need to get started. Even if I were outlining, framing out, kind of getting some things set, I would not officially start it. If you want to get a jump on things, then you can go ahead and do that, but I would not officially start anything. So the way you want to officially start that project is by having that milestone, right? So the first milestone is start the project. And what needs to happen to get to that milestone? They need to pay you whatever fees they need to pay you up front, and they need to provide to you whatever information you need in order to do your job. And then you can send them an email and say, congratulations, we've officially started your project. I've put it on the schedule. I'll be working on it starting on this day, and I expect it to be complete by this day. And that way you can, now that you have all of their work, all the things that they've needed to submit, you can actually go back through, review everything that you need to do, itemize out what you need to do, and then start making estimates so you know how long it's going to take. And remember, estimates are based on hours so that you make sure that you're looking at, if you only, let's say you schedule 5 hours for this particular project, 5 hours a week, let's say, and it's a 3 week project, right? And you're only going to work on it 5 hours, right? That's what I'm talking about is like, you don't want to have 20 hours of work and you're trying to cram it in 1 week because you're trying to do quick turnaround. You want to give them realistic expectations because you want to make sure you're doing good quality work for them. And by managing the expectations with communication, you can have a happy client, even if it takes longer than they wanted it to, or you didn't get right on it. But I used to work with a copywriter who I really enjoyed how she did things. And one of them was that statement of work. And then she would tell me exactly what date she was going to start on the project because she had other projects she was working on, lining up, that sort of thing. And so she just had this really good system, and I never had any problems ever in terms of timeline or anything because she just was really good at doing that particular thing. So the nice thing about the milestones is it builds up some excitement, right? If you have, say, 4 milestones set up, one is, okay, we're officially starting this project, boom. And then the next milestone is maybe a halfway point or a review point or something like that. You'll be able to build that excitement because they'll see the progress. If you've ever ordered any food like from Grubhub or any of those, and they give you basically a timeline like, hey, your driver is going to get your food and your driver is at the store, your driver has just left the store, your driver is arriving. It's like, it's kind of exciting. Like, you know exactly what's happening and you're not waiting like, okay, where are they? It's been, an hour. You know exactly what's happening in the timeline and everything. So you don't have unreasonable expectations on those drivers. And same thing works for your business, right? So send that email. And I'm going to get to that in just a second on how you can automate that. So the next thing, the number 3 thing. So the first one was, remember, set client expectations. The second one is ensuring you get everything you need from your client before you start your work. And number 3 is managing that client work and keeping your client updated on that progress. So I suggest you use a Kanban board. And you can do that in Trello. It's just a really simple board that's like got the to-do list, doing and done. And then you can actually share that board with your client. So you can itemize out all the things that you need to do, that you're going to do. And if you choose, you can share that actual board so that they can not only access that board, but they can access the cards, they can upload the documents that you need right there in Trello. You can keep the whole project together and not have files being emailed to you one way and sent to you this way or that way, they can just simply go into Trello and start uploading their documents there. So you can actually create cards in Trello and then assign it to that particular person and email them. So they'll get an email reminder of the things that they need, and then they can respond directly through that email. The other option, if you don't want to use a tool like Trello, is to simply use a Google Doc, and you can create a list and then create assignments within that list in your Google Doc, and you can email that person directly from Google. Every time you create a comment and tag them, it'll send them an email. They can respond directly through that email and get you the information you need. So it makes it really, really easy to communicate and file share, right? Communicate and file share. And so that Kanban board, though, really gives them that visual of what's going on, what you're working on, where you're at in the project. So if you want to have that kind of visibility with your clients, you can do so. And that might be a great way for you to manage ongoing clients, right? Like maybe not one person that's on, one project, but maybe an ongoing client where you can just manage the communication directly through that Trello board and emails, and you don't have to always be on the phone or having meetings and things like that. You can just do everything right through that tool. And there's all kinds of tools out there. Trello's very simple, easy to use. But there's other tools that you can use that are for communication like Slack, but I don't find that tool to be as user friendly. And I don't know, I just don't really like that tool that much. I have tried to use that tool, but I don't. My favorite tool actually is called Jira. And that tool, it's Jira, and that tool is really made for Scrum. Well, I mean, it's got lots of different types of projects, but Scrum is part of it. And it's not just setting up a Kanban board for you, it sets up a true Scrum project where you have a true backlog and then you have your Kanban board so you can make sprints. So if you have long-term projects that are going to take you multiple weeks to do, then that I recommend that so that you can stay focused with your clients on what you're working on now. Even if there's a 6 months of backlog work that you're going to do for them, they know exactly what you're working on in this particular sprint, And, and then you can send emails and everything through that. Another tool I love is Airtable. And Airtable, you can actually set up automation. So you can say, when this thing happens, send this type of email. You can even create right in the Airtable, you can create reports and things like that. So you could send them a really nicely made report that gives them a status on the project and what's going on with the project. If you're doing performance like social media, you could track it in there and then create a performance report for your clients right in there. So those are three great tools that I really love. I haven't used Monday. I have used Asana, but it was years ago. I think it's improved a ton. So if you're an Asana user, you don't need to abandon it. There's a lot of great tools out there. Just if you use Asana and you like it, there's tons of ways that you can use that as well. And I'm sure it has all the bells and whistles now. It's been around a long, long time. So sending those and getting those automated emails are really nice because you don't have to take the time to send the email, right? You just simply create that milestone and do that thing, whatever it is, like adding a comment to a Google Doc or, updating your Kanban board or the Trello card or the Jira card, um, or updating your Airtable database, and then that particular email will just generate on its own. So make sure you're doing that. Now, now here's the trick with balancing that. Now you've got your client work done, you've got your client expectations there. So how do you do it, manage all that client work and make sure you're still doing your marketing and stuff by using those time blocks? And you can get that at my website, thescrumshop.com/time, and get that time block um, freebie out there because that one will show you how to actually block out your time with green blocks, yellow blocks, and then even red blocks if you need those. Those are kind of for emergency um emergency use, right? It's your buffer, the red time, and then blackout time to make sure that you're getting that family time. You're not burning the midnight oil, right? And you're getting time away to take care of yourself, not for the things that you need to do for yourself, right? And so so those time blocks are gonna help you because now you're looking at, okay, I have, I don't know, let's say 10 hours a week I work on client work, and I have it slated out 2 hours a day, every single day. And I've got clients, you know, booked out. I happen to have a 2 hour block on Thursday or something. And so you might be able to fit in a 2 hour thing on Thursday. And so that's what you tell them. I won't be able to start your project until Thursday. And then I should have it done by, maybe Thursdays is the only day you can work on that particular client's work. And so you do it every Thursday, or, especially for ongoing type work, right? Or you have, a band of time where you're like, okay, I'm going to put in 3 days of time, 6 hours on this particular project. And so I'll be able to get it done in 3 days, or maybe in 5 days because you have other things that are interfering. So make sure that you know what that schedule is and what your schedule is. And you're not just making promises of having something, done for people. And then you're scrambling at the last minute trying to get everything done, you're cutting corners, you're not doing as good of a job as you want, because what's going to happen if you don't do as good of a job, you're not going to get that returning client, right? So if you're upfront and you're a great communicator and you have a little system in place that helps have structure, right? Have a little structure and provide accountability for you and for the client and visibility into the project that you're doing by sharing that board, sharing those documents, sharing whatever you feel comfortable sharing, having a statement of work, using those project management um, tools that you have. And if you don't have the project management tools, then I highly recommend that you grab my course. I just repackaged it. It is now just $27. You can grab it on my website at thescrumshop.com/challenge and grab it for $27. It'll help you understand how Scrum works, understand how to estimate, prioritize, and how to build a Kanban board, how to build your backlog, how to manage all your ideas coming in. There's a whole bunch of things that it does in there for you so that you can start using this framework to manage your client work, because I promise you it will make your life so much easier, and it'll really help give your clients that peace of mind that you've got it under control. It's not just chaos and craziness and, who knows what's happening behind the scenes, right? You give them that confidence in you, and you build excitement because you're creating milestones that each time that you're getting to those milestones, and people get to see the progress and know that it's coming. It's going to be here pretty soon, right? They get excited. All right. So I hope that that helps you start to manage that work of your clients and manage your own work. When I was building websites, I got overwhelmed pretty fast. And I started using a Kanban board for every one of my clients. I created a separate Kanban board for each one of my clients, and man, that make a huge difference. It was like day and night. And so and I actually did it more Scrum because I was working long term. So I had the backlog, and then I had what I was working on in my current sprint. Okay. All right. I hope that that helps you. And I hope that you have lots of clients coming in and you're booked out solid for, the foreseeable future, so that you can ensure a nice and healthy business for you and your family and your future. All right. I hope to see you in the comments, and I will see you there. Bye.